Hello again everyone, James here. There's a new report out of the UK that speaks to a troubling truth about the future of music, and we need to talk about it. Encore Musicians is this service out of the UK that exists to help artists book private gigs. And recently, the site did a survey of nearly 600 musicians where it asked about the impact of COVID-19 on their careers. Surprisingly, or perhaps not surprisingly, 64% replied that they were considering leaving music altogether as a result of the pandemic. And if you're anything like me, that news is kind of a shock to the system. I mean, more than half, well over half in fact, deciding to leave music forever? Now, after I read this news, I took a step back and tried to put myself into the headspace of somebody that might be considering leaving music. Because I believe that everyone that's in this business feels the way that I do most of the time, which is that you can't imagine doing anything else. But we have to face reality. The global pandemic has been ongoing for more than 6 months. I mean, the majority of 2020. And in that time, most artists have not been able to perform live, which is the principal way most of them make money. In addition to this, retailers worldwide have been closed, which has hurt physical media sales. And streaming royalties, while streaming does seem to be remaining fairly steady in terms of overall consumption, are still way too low for most people to make a living off of that. All of these factors go to put a lot of economic stress on artists. And making things far worse is the looming fact that we don't know how long this will continue. I mean, there was a report this week that Pfizer may be able to finish their vaccine by the end of October and have it available to some people as early as January 2021. However, another report cited that global immunization of, everyone not having the virus anymore, that's going to take until 2024. And that's like a modest assumption by somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. I don't know anything about distribution, but I do know that that's 3 full years from now, and that is far too long for the majority of musicians to wait to get back on the road. In addition to this, there's also the people who just won't want to get a vaccine, and all this speaks to no one knowing exactly what's going to happen with the music business. I mean, will there be concerts in the first part of 2021? Will there be concerts in the summer of 2021? Will we not have concerts again until 2022? And if that's the case, when shows do resume, will people feel comfortable coming back? And if so, how many? Will shows be able to be at scale, or will there still be social distancing in place? And where will all these artists play? Because as you and I know very well by now, thanks to things like the Save Our Stages movement, a number of independent venues all over the United States and around the world are in danger of closing or have already closed as a result of the ongoing pandemic. And all of this makes for a very frustrating, very dizzying, very taxing reality about what's happening in the music today. And I don't really have an answer for you. What I do know, and what I will say, is this. I've spoken to a lot of musicians who are determined to see this through, but they aren't being determined in a way where they refuse to do anything else. I've spoken to artists at independent labels and major labels, both of whom are currently working normal 9-to-5 jobs, or whatever work they can find to make ends meet. And that's giving them a little bit of safety net, at least for the time being. Their idea is that if music comes back in 2021, they'll quit those jobs and go back to doing what they do. But there's a flip side to this coin, and this is something else I've been hearing from artists, which is that some of them have gotten jobs that have benefits and have vacation time and are allowing them to spend time with the family that they haven't seen for the last decade because they've been on the road. And when touring resumes, it's really hard for them, at least right now, to wrap their head around the idea of giving all that up to go back out on the road with no promise of actually making the same amount of money or having benefits or seeing their family. They're starting to weigh the pros and cons of a life in the music industry in a way that they never have before, and I honestly can't blame them, because as much as I want to see my favorite artists on the road, I also want to see them happy and knowing that they're getting to see their children grow up and not worrying about how they're going to pay their dental bills or their medical bills. That makes me happy in a way that isn't the same as their music does, but does ultimately make me feel better about their livelihoods. And I think that that's something that we need to start talking about in the music business, because while we all want this to end, while we want live music to resume and to see sold out crowds going crazy and mosh pits and people waiting in line to get to the front of the rail and rubbing shoulder to shoulder with your closest friends while watching your favorite band on stage, we have to accept that when things do come back, we're going to be in yet another new normal. It's not going to be the world that we once knew. It's going to be different. And who fills out that world, who occupies that space, will likely be different as well. There are going to be people both on the artist side and the professional side who will leave music forever, and if that survey out of the UK is any indicator, it could be a very big number of people who are in it right up until March 2020. So what do we do with that information? I think the only answer, at least right now, is that we try to have a little bit of empathy for everyone, because we're all struggling. I've spoken to career music professionals who are currently looking at other options for their livelihood because they don't know when this is going to end, and they can't risk not being able to provide for their family down the road by clinging tight to some dream that they've been able to live for a little while, and for some, that's good enough. So when you read these statistics, or you talk to your friends in music who are telling you they don't know what they're going to do, or they're thinking about doing something else, I want to encourage you to support them in whatever they decide to do. Because if they want to leave music, or if they have to leave music because that's what they need to do to support their family or support themselves, or just give themselves some sense of control over this thing we call life, that's the best thing for them. And whether or not they ever record another song or play another show doesn't matter right now, as much as simply keeping their head above water. So if we can do nothing else right now, because we can't control when music is going to come back, we can't control at what capacity it will, we can't control whether or not people buy music, and we don't really have much say on how much streaming companies are going to pay us. But we do have some control over how we treat each other and how we support one another. And when live music returns, maybe some of those artists will come back, or maybe they'll come back for holiday shows and special events. But the industry is changing, and you can either choose to be a part of that and adapt and evolve as it does, or you can dig your toes into the ground and get buried in the waves of change that are coming. So support one another, take care of each other, and take care of yourself, because you deserve it.